Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As this shitty year comes to a close, I thought I'd do a video that's, well, I'm gonna have some thoughts here that are gonna be somewhat unpopular and stuff. And I want to talk about a lot of the toxicity in the gaming industry now I'm not talking about like trolls and people who are just making jokes and stuff. I'm talking about the people who, when they say these things, they legitimately mean it. so, let's start with the fanboys and, well, fangirls for that matter, because, there's both, obviously. The whole tribalism thing, it's just like, what is the point? Like, I really, you know, do you really think, I'm not saying you can't enjoy these games and their products and their companies, there's nothing wrong with showing loyalty, but these companies, whether it's Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, they don't care about you. You're just a number to them. Like I said, you can enjoy their games, buy their products, but why do you have to defend them like they're a member of the family? Like if it's or if one of your best friends or something. Like if somebody makes fun of them or calls them out on something, why do you have to say nope, they're this god, they can't do anything wrong? Like a perfectly good example of this is. Let me use Nintendo for example. Like, how can I put this? There's a lot of things they've done over the years. I'm trying to think of like a good example. The whole the Joy-Con drift, perfectly good example, where it's like the somebody who's actually I've dealt with Joy-Con drift, and I know people who have dealt with it. It's like all over social media, people talking all about it. And obviously there's like content creators and people on like various platforms showing videos and posting pictures and stuff like, yeah, there's my experience with Joy-Con drift. It's real. And and I'm pretty sure there's a lawsuit and stuff, and Nintendo's just like, no, that didn't happen. And yet people will still like defend this. Or it's like, oh, just take better care of your products. It's like, no, like some of these people like treat this thing like a baby, and that it still has like Joy-Con drift. Or like when the whole Nintendo YouTube thing was going on, and it's like, it's free advertising, and fanboys are like, nope, that didn't happen. And it's like, and that's which brings me to another thing, and this kind of scares me because, and it's not even just the gaming industry, but it's like the entertainment industry as a whole. And like I said, this kind of scares me if my theory about this is right. I feel like people are brushing off criticism, and that's not a good thing, because criticism may not always be pleasant, but it is necessary, because it helps you to improve. Like, I'm going to use Nintendo again, for example. The whole controversy with Pokemon Sword and Shield, which, personally, I enjoyed the game. Well, I didn't play both of them because they're both. If you're unfamiliar with the Pokemon game, they're they always release in like a dual set, and it's like both games are pretty much identical except for maybe a few different things. But other than that, the games are pretty much the same. So, I played Sword and I enjoyed it, but it did have flaws, which I'm not afraid to point out to. But I'm not going to do it right now because it'll take too long. But that's the thing. It's like, with people, if they enjoyed that game, like they think it was like a masterpiece, hey, that's perfectly fine. But, if people also think it was like a steaming pile of shit, then like, hey, that's fine too. But what I noticed, and this is, like I said, this is just one example. This has been happening a lot in the entertainment industry, is that, like, people will, we're going to go back to Pokemon, for example. People will go deep into detail and point out the flaws of, like, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Like, they'll be, very constructive criticism. They'll go very deep into details and point out the flaws and stuff, and people will be like, you're just whining, stop the overreacting, you sound entitled, and it's just like no, like, hey, if you like the game, fine, but these are flaws that this person noticed, and other people probably notice as well, and they're pointing them out because they don't want to see these games go downhill. They want to see them improve and get better. If you like the game, fine, but you can't just brush off the criticism. Like, especially in some games, there are people who don't really want to speak up about these things, like, or point out the flaws and stuff, and it's like, but you really have to, like, like I said, I don't why like, or it's like it doesn't not even just video games. It could be like a TV show or a movie or even a content creator. I've seen this with if like somebody's like you criticize someone or if like because you don't have to be a psychiatrist to know if somebody isn't right. Like something's like not something's going on. Like you can kind of read them like their person like and stuff, and it's just like people will like say things to try and help them and stuff, and then people will just brush them off like, you're just being a hater. And it's like, no, that's not what it is. They want to help them. Like, it's like if, case in point, let's say you go eat out in a restaurant and maybe the waitress was rude or the food was cold. Do you just sweep it under the rug? Like, no, you let them know about it so they can take the time to improve. Maybe not that they necessarily will, but it's just a good example of that. And another thing, which this one like drives me nuts, is that it's like it comes back to that whole tribalism thing where it's like people think like, oh, I'm better than you because like my system is better than yours. It's like, why the hell does it matter? Like, I don't. As somebody who grew up during the 16-bit era, it's like, I'll admit, that's the thing. I understand like when it's kids that because they're young and undeveloped, so to speak. Even like teens and stuff. Like, I can understand them bickering about like their favorite console and stuff. Like, this one is better because of whatever. But it's like when it's full-grown adults, it's just sad. It can be pretty entertaining at times, but most of the time it's just sad. And it's like the problem. Let me put this out right away. Is that a lot of times when this happens, I know not the whole gaming industry is not like this. Like they don't act like chill, because there are people who will. When it comes to criticism, some people will take it too far. Like they'll send a company, like or developers or voice actors or whatever. Like they'll start sending them death threats, and that's the line right there. That's too much. Like you criticize the company, the voice actors, the people who worked on the game, the publishers and everything. Go ahead and criticize them. And, be constructive about it, but don't send them death threats. That's just too far. And the problem with this, like I said, not the whole gaming industry is like this, but the problem is, and it's true, there are people out there with this mindset that they look at these people acting this way and say like, oh, this is how all gamers are. This is how they act when they act like they throw tantrums when they don't get what they want. Like, and it just spreads like this negative, like, vibe, stereotype thing around, like, which, I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting tired of like all the those stereotypes. And that's another thing is that I guess I'll probably end it with one last statement rant thing, is that when like hardcore gamers talk down to casual gamers, which again it relates to that whole thing like, oh, this is how all gamers are, like people with that mindset, and it's like. Now, see, I play video games at least probably 30 hours a week, give or take, and that's not including my other hobbies and, like, obviously responsibilities and, work and all that jazz. But it's like, whether somebody plays, take something like Smash Brothers, whether somebody plays that, like, a couple hours a day, like, every other day or something, or if somebody plays it, like, a half hour a couple of times a week, like, why do you care? Like, why does that bother you? Why does it, like, why do you care that these people don't play the same games as you, or they don't play them as much, or like, and, it's like, oh, they're a poser because they don't play it as much as me, and they're bragging about their skills. Like, who cares? Let them have their moment. Like, I mean, it's like I'm a Halo guy, and there's, like, levels where people will, like, camp out and stuff, like, they'll take a level, like, perfectly good example was Halo Reach. There's a level called Sword Base. Well, it's in the story too, but there's a level called Sword Base, and there's an area where you can literally just sit in a room. There's this room that you can just sit in with like the shotgun and the sword and kill somebody in one hit. And it's like, people will just camp out in there, and then they'll like, if they win, they'll be like, oh, look at what I did. Look at my skills stuff. Like, that's not skills. You're just sitting in a room. Like, it's different than sniping. Sniping is usually like, there'll be like a tower or something that, with a sniper rifle, like it's built for that. But this is just exploiting like a thing in the map. Like, so, but if they brag about it, sure, it can be annoying and stuff, but whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Like, you don't have to, like, you know, there goes Kirby. But that's the thing. It's like, and the way I think Review Tech USA said this in a video similar to this that he did like years ago, because he hit the nail on the head. He was like, sorry, I got out of the shower recently, but he really hit the nail on the head. He said, because he was talking about something similar, and he said, like, the more people who play video games, the more it becomes accepted into the masses. And like I said, that's actually a great point. So it's like, when people, whether they play, no matter what system they're playing, whether it's like PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, or it's like whether they're playing on console, PC, smartphone, tablet, whatever, it's all still video games. Like, or maybe not smartphone, like they're playing Candy Crush or something. It's like whatever. But the more people who play video games, whether they're casual or hardcore, the more it becomes like accepted into the masses. You don't have to be like this gatekeeper, like, nope, this is my hobby, stay away from it, no one else can enjoy it. It's like, because, and I've mentioned this I've talked about this before, like where I talk about, where it's like, the more people will play it, the more it becomes accepted, because it's like every single time there's a mass shooting, people are like, oh, it's because it's the video games, like they played Halo or Call of Duty or Fortnite or whatever, and it's just like, I don't watch the news. Like, I never did as far back as I can remember. I never really cared about it. But so forget the news. Let's just say maybe like, I don't know, a podcast or a radio or talk show or something. You have two people talking about some mass shooting that just happened. And they say like, oh, well, it's like, oh, it's because they played like Call of Duty or whatever. And then, the other person says like, no, I grew up playing like the Doom and Mortal Kombat games, and I never did anything like this. My kids play Grand Theft Auto, and they know it's just a video game. Like, you see what I'm saying? That's why I think it's a good thing that more people play video games. Like, doesn't matter what they play or how much they play or whatever. It's all good. It's a hobby is for anyone and everyone. If you can't accept that, find something else to do. Find another hobby. But yeah, so for those of you who are still here, thanks for listening to my rant. I hope you all have a happy new year. I'm probably not going to post anything right at the beginning of the year, but the first video I will be posting in the year, which will probably be like the second week of January, I'm going to do something that's not gaming related. It's the video, it's going to be more about TV, but it's actually something I've been wanting to do for a while. So until then, thanks for watching, and again, Happy New Year, everyone. I'll see you in 2020.